What's up, what's up, what's up, everybody? This is the week we were all waiting for is the NBA Finals. And because of that, we had to get the one, the only Prop God on the show. So thank you so much, Prop God, for jumping on. Of course, you guys already know the one and only Zach, Chris P, the GOAT. We have a lot to talk about, right? We know Dallas is going to be playing Boston. Boston has been favored in every series. They're going to be favored in this series as well. We'll break that down. And in the second half of the show, we're going to get into some of the other teams. We have Chris here, who was on the Knicks beat. We have Zach, T-Wolves Insider. We have Prop God, Milwaukee Bucks. So we'll get into some of those teams as well. Before we do that, Chris, let them know who's sponsoring us and why people should download this amazing app.
All right, y'all. So all things NBA, you guys know the YouTube channel, Cassidy Hubbarth, Dave McMenamin, some recent guests of the show, but this live version of all things NBA from A to Z does not happen without these guys right here in the lower right, the Beat the Book app on your phone, Apple Store, Google Play, whatever. Shout out to Beat the Book. Now, listen, this is not a sports book. This is not another app you're going to have to lose money on, but it is an app where you can record you're making or losing money. And let me tell you guys, it is fun, right? So you can put out bets, you can ride, you can tail people's bets. Personally, we're part of the All Things NBA team. Y'all know how we roll. So when it comes to the National Basketball Association, we are 16-7 all time on our NBA bets that we have handed out. It is just $5 to get our VIP picks for the rest of the NBA playoffs. We got one series left. You better make it count. You're going to be sitting around in July, in August, in September, wishing you squeezed a couple extra dollars out of this NBA season. You can do that riding with us on Beat the Book. You'll get our picks texted to your phone. You don't have to spend all day on the app. Keep that screen time down. When we put out VIP picks, you will get them texted to you. And you can also check out the community picks. I remember one time Beat the Book did a community spaces, and the picks given out by their cappers, myself included, went like 7-0. So y'all know, join the winning side, join Beat the Book.
All right. Thank you, Chris, for that. Prop God, this is your first time jumping on the show. We're super happy, super appreciative that you're on. Before we get started, tell the people where to find you, what socials to follow. Just quick plug for you right now.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you guys, had me on. I appreciate the opportunity. Always willing to network, meet new people. So in this space, you can find me on Twitter at _PropGod. I'm with FTN Bets. Pretty much I'm giving out articles and plays in the WNBA, the NBA, the NFL, and MLB. And I stream sports live, like NBA and WNBA, on www.playback.tv/ballers only. So that's
Awesome.
that's everything I got
PG.
going on.
Is it cool if I call you PG?
Yeah, I mean, you
Okay,
see
cool.
the background, so it's kind of
Okay. All right.
it's perfect.
And
right?
then Zach, I know you're feeling a little hurt right now. Minnesota got, just run out of the building in Game 5. Shellacked, if you will. And we'll get into Minnesota, whether, they should bring everyone back, go through some changes, things like that. But I know you're also a huge Boston Celtics fan, Zach. So let's get through what your point of view or your perspective on the Celtics here. They had a really, really easy road, right, in the Eastern Conference. People can fight me on that if you want, but they went through teams that were not 100%. That is a fact. Now they're playing a really hot Dallas team that plays defense, that has two really good individual players that close games. But how do you feel about Boston's chances in this one?
So I think Kristaps Porzingis is going to be pretty pivotal. I mean, the way Gafford and Lively have been really good. I mean, and just from a rebounding perspective, the Celtics have struggled throughout the playoffs. Second chance points has been a thing of emphasis for opposing teams for them. I do think people put too much pressure on Jason Tatum alone in this series. I don't think he needs to necessarily be the guy for them to get this done. I think they can keep playing how they are and with insert Porzingis and be just fine. But I also think the Mavs can pull this off. Like, I don't think this is going to be another 4-1 series. I do think if they had Porzingis this whole time and they were peaking with him, I think there's a chance it could have been 4-1. But no, I just think the Mavs depth and the way they're playing as a team is really, really freaking good. I think they're very deserving to be where they are. I think PJ Washington's going to need a pivotal role in this series. But I think Horford and Porzingis are going to have their work cut out. I think that's what it's going to come down to for the Celtics, and that's where I'm staying. I think the Mavs have. I think they can win the rebounding battle as they beat the Timberwolves, and I'm pretty sure they dominated the other two series from a rebounding perspective as well. I'd lean more on them. I think those guys could have played more minutes, to be honest, from Dallas, Lively and Gafford. But you did. One thing I do want to say, you said it was an easy road. They won 4-0, 4-1, 4-1. I mean, they handled business. I don't care how pretty it looked. At the end of the day, a win's a win. Only losing 2 out of that many games is pretty damn good.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, they've had a dominating season throughout the regular season, right? They've set so many records, historical marks, both on offense. I think it's number 1 on offense, top 5 defense. So, I mean, everything, all the metrics point to this is a championship caliber team, championship caliber players, and really solid coaching as well. Chris, I'll go to you next. So they beat the Pacers. And I mean, we don't have to get into the Pacers, but it wasn't, they were not challenged. I think that's what a lot of pundits are talking about the Celtics is, yeah, they got an easy road, which is fine, and they dominated everyone, but they really were never challenged. And so they might end up winning this title without ever being challenged. Chris, do you think that matters to you? Do you think in 5 years, when people look back at the 24 season and Tatum has a ring, Brown has a ring, Drew has 2, do you think people are going to actually nitpick the actual postseason?
I mean, listen, there are people out there that are going to nitpick everything, man. But what I can tell you is that all you can do is show up to work, get the job done, and go home satisfied, right? Tom Thibodeau, in his final press conference of the season, looked right at the reporters. He looked right at us, and he said, I almost thought he was joking at first, and I realized he was like dead serious. And I posted this quote, and it blew up because people loved it. He said, there are 29 unhappy teams every single year. All you can do to live without regret is do your best. Give your best when your best is needed, even if you're not at your best. That's the Thibodeau mantra. And for the Boston Celtics, whether they come away as champions or not, right, this is a pivotal series for them. All they can do is show up to work, get the job done, and go home satisfied. Because of that, I'm going to say no one's going to look back in time and nitpick. Maybe Bill Simmons, right? He was saying today the Celtics should be even heavier favorites. If the Mavericks win, he's going to be like, Russillo, I didn't write off Luka. Everyone wrote off Luka. So, you have your wafflers, your flip-floppers, but what you won't have is people 5 years from now saying, oh, Boston, this, and that, because as like the odds are, if they win the ring this year, it probably won't be their only one. So, that probably speaks for itself, right? Like, look at how they've been playing without Porzingis. Are we factoring that into this? Not really.
That's a good point. Proud God, I'm interested to hear your perspective. We're at 800 people in the live. Thank you to our friends at Ball is Life, who is our presenting sponsor. But Prop God, there's a little talk right now between Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Jaylen Brown just won the Eastern Conference, MVP. He arguably had a better postseason so far. He made that huge, 3-pointer. Is there a legitimate discussion here if Jaylen Brown ends up winning the Finals MVP as well, on whether this is his team or Jason Tatum's team?
Well, if Jaylen Brown does end up winning Finals MVP, I think that there's a discussion to be had. But until then, I think it's Tatum's team. I feel like Tatum's the overall better player. I think in big moments he is there. As much as I hated being a Bucks fan, I have to give him that. We've seen him in the fourth quarter in these playoffs make some big shots and big moments for them in big stretches too. So I think overall Tatum is he's just a better player. And he also shoots it from outside better too. I mean, Jason Tatum can do it all. If the offense needed him to facilitate, he can. He might not average many assists per game, but if he's put in that role, he can play make as well as get his own shot wherever he wants to on the court. So if I'm talking about whose team it is, I think it's Tatum's team until we see otherwise. Salute to Jaylen Brown for winning the Eastern Conference Finals MVP, but it's still Tatum for me.
Yeah, for those who don't know, the odds right now are Celtics minus 210 for the series, Mavericks plus 175. You can probably get that 5 or 10 cents different depending on which book you're looking at. I'll go back around here and we'll talk about the Mavericks. PG, what do you think the Mavericks have to do to upset Boston? Every series, right? First round, second round, and conference finals, the Mavs have actually been the underdog heading into the series. This is another one. How do you think, or what do you think they need to do to steal this from Boston?
Oh,
PG, I'll go to you first.
Oh, I thought you were talking to Zach. You talking to me?
Yeah,
Wait.
PG.
No, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the. So you said, what do I think that Dallas has to do to steal this series? Or
Yeah.
Yep.
For Dallas, I think the other guys, as Shaq likes to call them, have to be huge for them to win the series. Zach already mentioned it, talking about PJ Washington. When we talk about props, like series-long props, I'll get into him a bit more then. But I feel like PJ Washington and Derek Lively and Derek Jones have to be great for Dallas for them to capitalize. We know what Luka and Kyrie can do on a nightly basis, but which one of the others? They need at least two of those guys to show up every game, I feel like. Because Dallas is deep. They're probably the best starting five in the NBA. Not probably. I think they are the best starting five in the NBA collectively. So
not Denver?
Boston.
That's tough for me, man.
This is the thing. We go. So I love Denver too. Now you're making me think.
You can argue Dallas has the best two.
No, as far as the backcourt, I think Dallas has the best offensive backcourt in the league. But you could say Boston has the best defensive backcourt in the NBA. When you pair Derek White and Drew Holiday, so
yeah.
But what I'm saying is Boston can attack you in a lot of ways, and then the ability they have to shoot the three is deadly as well. Dallas has done great at closing out and getting people off the perimeter, especially in the playoffs. We'll see how that goes, in this series. But for Dallas to pull it off, I think two of the others have to show up on a nightly basis. Because I'm coming in expecting Luka has always been great against Boston. He's probably going to average about 32 to 35 points. Maybe not 35, but 32 to 34 points a night in this series. But who else is going to show up besides Luka and Kyrie? That's the key components for me.
Chris, the thing that I looked into when it came to Dallas, Minnesota, heading into that series is if Luka and Kyrie play better than Cat and Anthony Edwards, which they did, right? If they do that, Dallas is going to win, right? The top two versus the other top two.
It's and you also said no matter who wins, that series isn't going more than 5 games.
Yeah,
you said to take the under 5.5, and look at that, man.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be competitive. Competitive doesn't always mean 6-7 games. People just expect a long series, but sometimes you have really close 5 games. But anyways, Chris, this series is different because if Luka and Kyrie play better than Tatum and Brown, you still have Holiday, you still have White, you still have Porzingis, and you still have Horford. So they not only does the Dallas top two have to play better, but if they don't, I think it's a short series. I think Boston wins. But Chris, my question to you is, let's say Luka and Kyrie deliver. Is that enough for Dallas, or does someone else need to step up? And who is that for you?
So, okay, I'll go both ways here, right? Because here's the thing, and that's kind of the beauty of the Mavericks. And if you want to get like fake deep, it's like the beauty of basketball, right? Like basketball's version of everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face is everyone has a plan until a chubby white dude hits a 21-foot step back, one-legged mid-range fader. Like you can't
defend it. Yeah,
you can throw Zeke Thomas and you can throw Michael Jordan out there to defend this Dallas backcourt, right? But the matter of fact is, if the shot making continues the way the shot making has been, there's no answer. There's nothing. There's no way to go ahead and say, oh, but they'll outweigh, like, if the shots are falling, the shots are falling. And I'm not trying to sound like ball don't stop and be like oh, the fadeaway, the hezzy, the tween hezzy, the sham god, he's got this and that and that. But Kyrie and Luka, the bags are so deep that no matter what Boston throws at them, if they're making the shots, it doesn't matter. So for me, I think Kyrie and Luka doing their thing this playoffs has meant being a wrecking ball through some really tough defensive matchups. And with that said, I think it would be enough, right? Because the Celtics are not infallible. Now, did they have 10 games on anyone else in the East? Yes. But there's got to be context behind that. Philly missed Embiid for a lot of the season. They did not have a good record in those games. New York missed Anunoby, Randall, Robinson for a lot of the season. They won a lot of games, but they could have won more, right? So the gap that Boston put between themselves and the rest of the Eastern Conference, to me, happens like 2 out of 10 times if you resim this series. And I know you got to look at the results in front of you and make what you can out of them, but Boston's not some infallible team to me. They're very good. They're great even, but they're not unbeatable. And for that reason, I think it is enough if Luka and Kyrie go off. That being said, part of Luka and Kyrie going off to the extent they have, you have to weigh in the defensive attention going towards the other Mavs. The vertical spacing coming from Lively and Gafford, the horizontal, the regular, the way we talk about spacing from PJ Washington turning into Tony Kukoc from the corner, like that to me is really valuable as well, right? So the same thing, and you saw the Knicks, right? I always bring it back to the Knicks somehow. The Philly said anyone but Jalen Brunson beat us. And they say, okay, Josh Hart's hitting threes. Now we have to pay attention to him. Boom, Brunson, 39 points in 4 straight games. Like, that's just how it is. The talent is going to talent. And so if the Dallas role players are just good enough where they have to keep Boston honest, all of a sudden you're not hounding and surrounding Luka and Kyrie with 3-4 defenders. You've got to play them straight up. You got to double team them at most. That will stifle them, but it won't stop them. And so, yes, in short, I think it's a little bit of both. I think the Dallas role players have to keep Boston honest, but if Luka and Kyrie can benefit from that and keep doing what they've been doing in terms of no matter how good the defense is, just making the damn shots no matter what, there's no answer for that.
Yeah, I just want to go on a quick tangent here. I'll be really quick, Zach, before I get to you. But we talk about the player's bag, right? Like, we talk about what they can do. I'll tell you this because I've watched Luka very closely, as you guys know, being here in Dallas. When it's like winning time, he doesn't use his bag. He uses his bully ball. He goes in, takes it into the hole, and he tries to draw the foul on you and gets an and one. In the first 3 quarters, yeah, he's doing all those step backs. He's doing those turnaround fades. No look passes, but when it's like winning time late in the fourth quarter, he keeps it pretty simple. So I just want to mention that if you're looking at live, like, Luka turnover props, things like that, he takes care of the ball really well in the fourth quarter. Zach, question to you is what do you think Dallas has to do being a plus 175 underdog heading into the series?
That's such a good point on Luka, and that's what makes him so great. He's so intelligent when it comes to what the team needs, what he needs to do. If the shot's not falling, it's what some of the other superstars have struggled. If their 3 ball's not falling, they're just going to keep chucking up threes, and eventually they're going to fall, and preying on that versus getting to the mid-range, getting to your spots, just being a higher IQ player throughout. But it's just insane looking at Derrick Jones Jr. is one of the things. Like, he's played in the league 10 years now, and he's never averaged for an entire season above 33, 34% from 3. Comes into Dallas here, and yes, I mean, Luka and Kyrie are going to give you the space you've dreamt of your entire life. But he's gone 39% Series 1, 37 Series 2, and now he's 46 in Series 3 for 3-point. Like, this dude has just magically appeared. It's like, how do you just develop a shot like that after I think he was 33% on the season, something crazy like that. But yeah, I just hope that keeps rolling because I think his shots are so timely too. He's an interesting guy to keep in mind, and it's not like it's just 1 or 2 attempts a game. He's throwing them up a bit. But I do think Jaden Hardy, I mean, he could play a bigger role here. Kid's not afraid to go into the bench if they need it, to find whoever the hot hand is. That's what I like about Jason Kidd right now. Figure out what works. And Kyrie in the clutch, man, he's been terrible in the first halves, a lot of the playoffs. I think as long as he continues this, I think they're in it. I mean, he's about as timely and as clutch as they get right now. I don't think Dallas needs to change a whole lot. Like I said, it comes down to the big man matchup for me. Dallas's depth is incredible compared to Boston. I mean, it could be a battle if Porzingis isn't his full self. But if he is, I do lean Boston. But I mean, my opinion could change pretty quickly after a game or two, just because I do like how Dallas is playing and their peak right now. And I just have always thought Luka is that guy to go on a tear and win a couple. And I think this is the best team he's ever had around him. I think compared to other stars too, I think the supporting cast just fits him absolutely perfectly. So you got to take advantage of these opportunities when you got them.
All right, I love it, guys. For those who are just joining on right now, we are brought to you by Beat the Book and Ball is Life. Beat the Book is sponsoring this live version of the NBA Finals show. And I think, Chris, you and I talked about this offline. Jackie, we were on too. I think we want to do a show for every finals game. So if that's 7 games, if that's 4 games, we're going to have a show for every game and preview it and recap it and everything. And I'm sure we'll get PG back on. I do have a couple bets I want to talk about, but we'll get to that later. Prop God, I know you are one of the sharpest people in the industry, in this space. I know you're looking at a ton of, series props. What are some of the ones that you're looking into particularly?
So I got into it briefly. The only one I've locked is I really was tempted to unlock it in this Porzingis over 15.4 points per game in the series, but coming back from that injury, I need to see him play first. So I probably end up betting on Porzingis like a game in the game type thing. One that I'm official on is PJ Washington over 11.8 points per game. That's minus 115 on DraftKings. PJ has always played well against Boston. Over the last 2 years, averaging 16 points a game against them. Last series, he kind of fell off from 3 against Minnesota. I think he shot, what was it on my notes, 25% from 3 compared to it looked like he didn't miss against the Thunder. Looking to some positive regression from him. I forgot who it was, Chris or Zach, that mentioned him from the corner. I think PJ from the corner is shooting like 51% from 3 or something like that in the playoffs. It's insane. So I think those shots will be there as Boston tries to key in on Luka and Kyrie. So that's the only one I have in officially right now. PJ Washington over 11.5 points, 11.8 points per game in the series. Some other bets I did lock in Dallas plus 6.5 game 1. Once it dropped, I thought the line was going to move a little bit, but it didn't. We've seen Boston. I feel like they can be had at home, and I feel like the Mavericks will take one of these first 2 games. When I saw the 7 points for game 1, I just went ahead and took it because I love the way the Mavericks are playing right now. You guys spoke on the Celtics not being battle tested. I'm not going to discredit them for that, but Dallas just beat the top 3. They beat 3 of the top 5 seeds in the Western Conference to make it to the finals. That's one of the greatest runs we've seen probably in quite some time. So I respect them there. They're 7-2 on the road in the playoffs. And I think they get one of these 2 games just outright. But I love taking the 7 for game 1. So those are the 2 bets that I have locked in right now.
I love it, PG. I mean, Minnesota is one of the best home teams in the NBA all season long. And Dallas won all 3 games. Game 5 in convincing fashion, game 2 and a heartbreaking, game winner by Luka. But those are really tough environments that they really, brought it to Minnesota there. Minnesota was kicking on all cylinders. They had just won game 7 against the NBA Finals champion. So they were riding high. So that was a big win. That's why I'm saying all this, because my favorite bet, and it's a little juicy, I do see this going a long series, Chris. So you could put it in the app if you want. Over 5.5 games is minus 150. Or if you want to do Mavericks plus 1.5 games, I do think it's going to go 6 or 7 games. And PG kind of laid it out. Every series so far, and it's not just this year, it's been like the entire Tatum Brown era. Celtics just give you 1 or 2 games a series, one minimum, right? And if it's a good team, they give you 2 games. So I think it's going to go long. That's my favorite bet so far. Chris, I'll go to you next. Anything or any betting angles, any storylines that you want to get into for Mavericks Celtics?
Yeah, man, I love that over games pick. I think even if you're high on Boston, this has been the kind of playoffs for Dallas where they're not going out without, taking 2. So I think like Celtics in 5, if you're really high on Boston, like even that's a little too rich for me. I would say Boston in 6 is like the way to play it. So like you said, DraftKings minus 150 for over 5.5. That will be one of our VIP picks in the Beat the Book app. But if you're tuned in live, you get it now. That said, correct score. You guys know I love the correct score bets. Sometimes you just know about a series. Sometimes you don't know anything. But right now, Boston Celtics to win 4 games to 2 is plus 475. And it is the correct score with the 3rd lowest odds, or the 3rd best odds. So with that said, like you can cross Mavs 4-0 off the list, Mavs 4-1, you can cross off the list, even Celtics 4-1, which is the most likely according to DraftKings, cross that off the list. You're looking at 5 options: Celtics 4-3, Celtics 4-2, Mavs 4-2, Celtics 4-0, you can cross off the list. You're down to 4 options, the 4th being Mavs 4-3. So what I would say is Celtics plus 475 to win 4-2, and then a sprinkle Mavericks to win 4-3 plus 800. I think the Mavericks would win in 7. Obviously, you don't have every base covered, but like an extra inning, you get that free runner on second if you take that 4-3 Mavs series prop. So you get a plus 475, a plus 800, and then that should put you in a pretty good situation too to hedge as the series goes on, depending on which one of those is looking like it's going to hit. So again, you never have the exact read on a series, but sometimes you got to play the odds. You got to play the numbers, the lines, the way you think will end up aging the best. Celtics 4-3, like you're telling me if this Boston team that's this good goes to a game 7 against Dallas, we don't see Kyrie and Luka pop off and just close out the way that they've closed out this playoffs. Like, I just can't see it. So if Boston takes care of business, it's going to be in 6. If Dallas takes care of business, it's going to be in 7. To me personally, I like those 2 as a good way of setting yourself up for some smart hedges later on as well.
I kind of like that because that's going against the grain, because everyone knows game 7 at home, the winning percentage there is like in the mid 80s. So that's a good look. And then also PG mentioned this, the Mavericks are not scared on the road. In fact, I think Luka and Kyrie prefer to play on the road.
They love to take their show on the road, man.
Yeah, there's this narrative here in Dallas. There's this narrative in Dallas that they lost game 4 on purpose just so they can kill Minnesota in Minnesota in game 5. But I mean, that's all just conjecture. The other thing I wanted to talk about
is get the tinfoil Mavericks hat off, man.
The other thing I wanted to talk about is I'm not like this because I go game to game, right? I do spreads and totals. But Chris, that's another strategy that you can get into if you're wanting to bet games. You can build a portfolio of high plus odds, and then you can hedge it during the way, right? As the series goes on. So there's many ways to skin this cat. Zach, what do you think the best bet or what your favorite look is heading into the series?
Yeah, so I like a couple prop bets. I sprinkled a little more on Jaylen Brown, Eastern Conference Final MVP. I got that at plus 600. I was happy about that one, but I did Kyrie too in the Western Conference. Obviously that didn't work out, but I like those same plays for the finals. Like I prefer going a little heavier on Jaylen Brown. Obviously, I think the gap's a little closer there, but I mean, get great odds on that right now. But another play that's similar to that is series leader in total points. I mean, I'm not saying anything crazy, but you can get Tatum plus 280 and then Kyrie Irving plus 1,000. Those two I like there. And then like threes leader, you can get Jason Tatum plus 500, Kyrie plus 700, and then Kristaps Porzingis plus 2,000. And I think that's not even that far fetched. Let's see what else. Total rebounds, that one's kind of tough, but I do like Porzingis unders in general, just game to game. If you want to go under, I just don't think he's going to be very consistent. I think he's going to be about PJ Washington type of production from Minnesota series. I think he's probably going to be equivalent to that. So look at his numbers there and then take it for what you will. But outside of that, I mean, that's probably the best value bets I see. Over under on points, you can maybe go Jaylen Brown over 23.2. Outside of that, I wouldn't really touch him besides maybe Kyrie Irving over 24. He did 27 in the Minnesota series, but very inconsistent. So he could have gone much less than that pretty easily, I think. So that's I threw out a bunch there. Pretty confident. I think those are some good value plays to sprinkle a little bit on, and hopefully you hit one of them.
Prop God, I think you had a couple others that you wanted to mention as well.
Yeah, I had when you guys were mentioning, Boston and 7 and things like that, just the total amount of games. When I originally looked, when the lines dropped after game 5 between Minnesota and Dallas, I like the exact games 6 it's at plus 230 on DraftKings. I think 7 is like plus 200 because I'm with you guys. I don't see it being a 5-game series. I think it goes 6 to 7 either way. I could see Luka going into the Boston Garden in the game 7 and losing his mind too. That would be, how entertaining would that be, right? And then Kyrie as well. So, but I think this series goes at least 6, and you can get that at exact games on DraftKings at plus 230. I wanted to follow up on what Zach said really quickly too. I think Jaylen Brown could average 24 plus points a game in this series. They got him at 23.2 on DraftKings. So I think he probably averages 25 a game in this series. And it's minus 110. I'm gonna go official on that as well. And he's played well against Dallas over the last 3 years. I think he's got at least 24 points in 5 out of the last 7. So if you want to take a game 1, I'm fine with that. But series long, I think 23.2 is a little bit too low for JB.
I like that, man. JB has been really good in these playoffs. It's, people can never just enjoy a good thing. Like if Jaylen Brown plays good games, they're like, oh, is he the best Celtic? Is he the
oh yeah?
Please,
you got to get some type of comparison going on.
Exactly. Like we can never just enjoy a good thing. But with that said, he's been instrumental for what they're doing this postseason. And yes, again, like we talked about earlier, you can bring out the litany of excuses and, oh, their competition, this and this. Again, what else are they supposed to do? Like, this is like the memes about people asking the landlord to raise their rent for motivation. Like, is Boston supposed to show up against Indiana and be like, nah, we want to play the Nuggets right now, man? Like what are they supposed to do? So for me, Jaylen Brown has been really good. And like you guys were talking about, have they faced enough resistance? Have they had to show that resiliency themselves? Maybe not as much, but what you can bet on is momentum and the hot hand theory, the hot hand fallacy, if you want to call it. I think it's not a fallacy in sports. So yeah, not to get like socio-analytical or whatever, but Jaylen Brown's been on a roll. I expect that to continue. Guys, we got some really good plays thrown out today. Of course, we'll be talking NBA Finals, like Albert said, after every single game, talking about what happened, previewing the next one. That includes throwing out our best bets. Like we said, the Beat the Book app is your spot to get not only our pro picks, but other pro cappers as well. There's a whole tab on Beat the Book for pro cappers. You can just go right in there and you can see today we posted over 5.5 total games in the series. That's our first official VIP play. $5 for all of those texted right to your phone. Shout out. Oh, wrong corner. Shout out to Beat the Book, our sponsor in the bottom right. Shout out to Prop God PG for showing out today and coming with the huge prop plays. I love the Jaylen Brown one. And of course, my two guys up top, Al and Zach. Al, you got the best of Zach this year with Dallas running over Minnesota like roadkill. But we'll see. I don't think we've heard the last from Anthony Edwards, and that means we haven't heard the last from Zach Noble. So for my All Things NBA team, I want to tell you guys one more time, there's an interview with ESPN's Dave McMenamin on our YouTube channel right now. Go check it out. Go follow Prop God. You see the @ right there on the screen. If you somehow are tuned in right now and don't follow PG, fix that. Change. There you go. See, it's hard, right? Fix that. Change that. And make sure you stay tuned right here on Twitter or on our YouTube for the All Things NBA live shows and our regular podcasts and interviews. Thank y'all. Shout out to Ball is Life and Beat the Book. And we'll see y'all soon.